Hello everyone and welcome to Evolution of G.I. Joe games. G.I. Joe Cobra Strike is an action video game written by John Emerson for the Atari 2600 and published in 1983 by Parker Brothers. There are three game modes: single player, two-player cooperative, and two-player competitive. G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero is a 1985 action shoot-'em-up video game. It was developed and published by Epyx for the Apple II and Commodore 64. The game cannot be completed if too many members of either side are placed in jail. Other members are released to perpetuate the game. Action Force: International Heroes is a video game released by Virgin Games in 1987. The game is set in the world of the Action Force G.I. Joe toys by Hasbro. The player controls a helicopter which must clear the path for the striker and its occupants across a dangerous landscape. Action Force 2 International Heroes was released in 1988. The player controls the crosshairs of Airtight's weapon and must shoot enemies that appear before they injure. Quick kick, he ascends the side of the building. The player must shepherd a character across a dangerous environment, however the game is otherwise completely different. G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero is a 1991 run-and-gun game published by Taxon Furnaz. The player collects power-ups in the game that increases an individual character's abilities. Gun icons increases firepower, K-rations recovers energy. G.I. Joe is a third-person rail shooter video game produced by Konami and released in 1992 for video arcades. Each character either stands or automatically runs forward in a 3D perspective, and their player can use the joystick to move them left or right as well as raise or lower an aiming crosshair. This allows for the latter's movement through most of the screen. G.I. Joe: The Atlantis Factor was released in 1992. The game features multiple levels, each with its own unique environments and enemies. Players can collect power-ups and items to enhance their character's abilities and weapons, and can also call on other members of the G.I. Joe team for assistance. G.I. Joe: The Rise of Cobra is a video game adaptation of the 2009 movie of the same name. The Rise of Cobra include Commando, who does well at close range, heavy weapons, who possesses extraordinary shooting skills but does best from a distance, and Soldier, who is a balance between the two. G.I. Joe Strike was released in 2015. Experience the visceral thrill of combat in this fast-paced, cinematic action game. Your nemesis Storm Shadow has rounded up an army of deadly Arashikage ninja and must be stopped. Lead your own covert mission as Snake Eyes. G.I. Joe: Attack on Cobra Island was released in 2015. Fight on foot and in vehicles as you battle your way over land, undersea, and in the air to the depths of Cobra Island in attempt to stop a doomsday missile from being launched before it's too late. The Cobrial enemies fall straight up and down. G.I. Joe: War on Cobra was released in 2020. War on Cobra is a multiplayer strategy game based on the movie of the same name. Players are invited to develop their own military base. To do this, you need to build and erect various types of buildings, defensive structures, capture new territories, and attack enemy settlements. G.I. Joe Operation Blackout is a 2020 third-person shooter video game. In the base game, players can take on roles of 12 characters. Players can play the story missions with another in local split-screen co-op, or compete in up to 4-player player versus player local matches in for multiplayer modes: 18 awesome weapons, 36 weapon skins, 12 alternate character skins. G.I. Joe: Wrath of Cobra is a 2D side-scrolling beat-'em-up in the vein of Final Fight or Streets of Rage. Players each control one of the members of G.I. Joe, progressing through stages and taking down various Cobra enemies and bosses. Each character can perform unique attack combo strings and special moves, as well as dodge and parry incoming attacks.